Hey guys, it's Hannah and this is Bookworms Talk, and today I'm going to read from my subscribers' favorite books. As always, I will have the titles linked with their timestamps down below, so if you've already read one or you're not interested, you can skip to one you would like to hear about. If you'd like to keep up to date with me and keep up with the books that I'm currently reading, you can follow me on Instagram, where I post pretty frequently, and I'm getting into TikTok, so you can follow me there too. At first, I'm going to read from Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, as well as This Man by Jodi Ellen Malpas, as well as The Surviving Trace by Kalia Reed. First with Archer's Voice. This has been a long time thing. I've been hearing people say, you gotta read it, and I just haven't. I am starting in chapter 2, because chapter 1 was more of like a flashbacky kind of thing, and I think chapter 2 is gonna hook you, so that's my motivation. I slung the backpack over my shoulder, picked up the small dog carrier on the passenger side seat, and closed the car door behind me. I stood still for a minute, just listening to the morning cricket songs echoing all around. Almost, but not quite, drowning out the soft swish of the trees rustling in the wind. The sky above me was a vivid blue, and I could just make out a sliver of glistening lake water through the cottages in front of me. I squinted at the white one, the one that still had the small sign in the front window declaring it was for rent. It was clearly older and slightly run down, but it had a charm about it that immediately appealed to me. I could picture sitting on the porch in the evenings, watching the trees surrounding it sway in the breeze as the moon came up over the lake behind me. The smell of pine and fresh water in the air. I smiled to myself. I hoped the inside offered a little charm too, or at least the very least, some clean. "What do you think, Phoebes?" I asked softly. Phoebe chuffed agreeably from her carrier. "Yeah, I think so too," I said. An older sedan pulled up next to my small VW Bug, and an older balding man got out, walking toward me. "Bree Prescott?" "That's me." I smiled and took a few steps, shaking his hand. "Thanks for meeting me on short notice, Mr. Connick." "Please call me George," he said, smiling back at me and moving toward the cottage, both of us kicking up dust and dead pine needles with each step. "Not a problem meeting you. I'm retired now and I don't really have a schedule to keep to. This works just fine. Here we go," he said, putting the key in the lock and pushing the door open. The smell of dust and faint mildew greeted me as we stepped inside, and I looked around. The wife comes out as often as possible and does some dusting and basic cleaning, but, as you can see, could use a good once-over. Norma doesn't get around quite as well as she used to, with her hip arthritis and all. The place has been empty all summer. "It's fine." I smiled at him, putting Phoebe's dog carrier down by the door and moving toward what I could see was the kitchen. The inside needed more than a basic cleaning, more like a complete scrub-down, but I immediately loved it. It was quaint and full of charm. When I lifted a couple of covers, I saw the furnishings were old but tasteful. The wood floors were wide-planked and beautifully rustic, and the paint colors were all subtle and calming. The kitchen appliances were older, but I didn't need much as far as a kitchen went anyway. I wasn't sure I'd ever want to cook again. "The bedroom and bathroom are in back," Mr. Connick started to say. "I'll take it," I cut in, then laughed and shook my head slightly. "I mean, if it's still available and okay with you, I'll take it." He chuckled. "Well, yes, that's great. Let me get a rental agreement out of the car, and we can get all of that taken care of. I listed the security deposit as first and last, but I can work with you if that's a problem." I shook my head. "No, that's no problem. That sounds fine." "Okay then, I'll be right back," he said, moving toward the door. While he was outside, I took a minute to walk down the hall and peek into the bedroom and bathroom. Both were small, but they would do, just as I figured they would. The thing that caught my attention was a very large window in the bedroom that faced the lake. I couldn't help but smiling as I took in the view of the wood dock leading out to the calm, glassy water, a stunning blue in the bright morning light. There were 2 boats far out, not much more than dots on the horizon. Suddenly, looking out at the water, I had the strangest sensation that I wanted to cry, but not with sadness, with happiness. Just as soon as I felt it, it started to fade, leaving me with an odd nostalgia I couldn't begin to explain. "Here we go," Mr. Connick called, and I heard the door shut behind him. I left the room to sign papers for the place I would call home, at least for the next little while, hoping against hope that this is where I'd finally find some peace. That's kind of where it naturally cuts off here, so it seems like a good place to me. It sounded quite nice to me. I liked the writing, it flowed well. And I think next we're going to do This Man. This is also another one that I've heard about a ton. I know it's a favorite of you guys. I've had recommendations to read this since I started my channel in like 2012. So it's been a while. Maybe 13. I don't know when this book came out. It's been a long time though. Chapter 1. I rifled through the piles and piles of paraphernalia sprawled all over my bedroom floor. I'm going to be late. "Kate," I yelled frantically. "Where the hell are they?" I run onto the landing and throw myself over the banister. "Kate!" I hear the familiar sound of a wooden spoon bashing the edges of a ceramic bowl as Kate appears at the bottom of the stairs, her red hair piled high in a mass of curls. She looks up at me with a tired expression. It's an expression that I've become used to recently. "Keys. Have you seen my car keys?" I puff at her. "They're on the table under the mirror where you left them last night." She rolls her eyes, taking herself and her cake mixture back to her workshop. I dart across the landing in a complete fluster and find my car keys under a pile of weekly glossies. "Hiding again," I mutter to myself. Grabbing my tan belt, heels, and laptop, I make my way downstairs from the flat above Kate's workshop, finding her spooning cake mixture into various tins. "You need to tidy up your room, Ava. It's a fucking mess," she complains. Yes, my personal organization skills are pretty shocking, especially since I'm an interior designer for Rococo Union, and spend all day coordinating and organizing. I scoop up my phone from the chunky table and dunk my finger into Kate's mixture. Kate's cake mixture. That's a tongue twister. I can't be brilliant at everything. "Get out," she bats my hand away with her spoon. "Why do you need your car anyway?" she asks, leaning down to smooth the mixture over, her tongue resting on her bottom lip in concentration. I have a first consultation in the Surrey Hills, some country mansion. I feed my belt through the belt loops of the navy pencil dress, slip my feet into tan heels, and present myself to the wall mirror. "I thought you stuck to the city," she says behind me. I ruffle my long dark hair for a few seconds, flicking from one side to the other, but give up, piling it on top with a few grips instead. My dark brown eyes look tired and lack their usual sparkle, a result, no doubt, of burning the candle at both ends. I only moved in with Kate a month ago after splitting with Matt. We're behaving like a couple of university students. My liver is screaming for a rest. I do. The country sector is Patrick's domain. I don't know how I got stuck with this. I sweep the wand of my gloss across my lips, smack them together, and give Kate a kiss on the cheek. It's going to be painful. I know it. "Love ya. Ditto. See you later," Kate laughs without lifting her face from her workstation. Maybe I've just been filming for too long. This is not my first video. The writing kind of feels clunky. Maybe it's just me. Next, I'm going to read a little bit from The Surviving Trace. I've only felt the cold hands of death twice in my life. The first time I was 14. I watched my aunt die in a small hospital room. We were prepared for her death, but seeing her life slowly fade away was chilling. My parents, brothers, and I surrounded her bed, waiting in muted silence for her to take her final breaths. The heaviness of the situation bore down on me until it felt as if I were the one struggling to breathe. I had to say something. "Aren't you scared?" I finally whispered. "Not at all," she whispered back. Then she smiled. "I'm at peace." My mother stepped in before I could reply, but my aunt's words lingered in my head. How could there be peace in death? The second time is now. The peace my aunt spoke of? It's slowly wrapping itself around me. No wonder she was so relaxed. The knowledge that I'm going to end my life is dissolving, and the only thing that seems to matter now is how I lived, how I loved, and what I sacrificed for that love. That's how I know what I'm about to do is right. Good, in fact. Because in less than a second, every single bad thing will end. All I have to do is pull the trigger. That doesn't mean I'm ready. I still have so much to do, to say, but the edges of my life are burning, crumbling in on themselves. I'm sitting, but the room feels as if it's stretching, trying its hardest to run from me. I exhale shakily and rest my head against the cold brick wall behind me. Water seeps between the bricks, dampening my hair. Directly above my head are wooden shelves with empty mason jars, cobwebs looped between the jars. Old, rusted-out pipes run above my head, leaking water. The drops slowly fall onto the ground. Drip, drip, drip. The rickety staircase that leads to the basement door is barricaded as best as possible, but that does nothing to alleviate my fears. Anyone could burst down here if they really wanted to. The only light in the room comes from a bulb hanging directly above my head. Weak yellow light appears for a minute before it slowly fades away. On the opposite wall is a small excuse for a window. The glass is covered with grime and dust. Hardly any light comes through. The air smells musty, as though rust and damp earth have come together to form their own scent. My gaze drifts to the head on my lap. Gently I brush his hair back from his forehead. I'm afraid to move, to breathe. Inside, I'm dying to hang on to him as tightly as I can, but I hold back. I've already done enough to damage him, to his life. I am loving this. Like, talk about hook me fast. I swear I feel like I've read one of her book intros for a different episode of the series. I might continue reading this. This is the one that I'm really enjoying so far. No idea what it's about. Not a damn clue. Maybe I should tell you that. Will is my fiancé. The shy man I met years ago in college. The person I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with. This is the life I've always wanted, until finding a picture of 4 men changes everything. A 10 says he's my husband, and the year is 1912. Outlander vibes immediately, but maybe that's not fair. But Outlander vibes. He can't stand the sight of me, but I don't know why. Oh, and he's one of the 4 men in the picture. I've done the impossible and have become trapped in time, and I know a 10 is my key to going home. The more time I spend with a 10, the further I fall for him, until I'm questioning which time I belong in, and if the life I left behind is the one I truly desire. No, I think that was fair. I still say Outlander vibes. But I do, like, that sounds fun to me. I'm so into that. And it is a series. I saw there's a couple books. All right. That was fun. I had a fun time filming that. The middle book, the This Man one, let me know if I'm not giving it a fair chance. I was just, like, stumbling through it, and I'm on a time crunch, so I just kind of set it aside. Yeah, if it's worth it to power through, let me know. I will talk to you guys later next time, and let me know what your other recommendations are for my next episode of this. I'll talk to you then.